Hi there, I'm Dr. Jen Anderson from the postgraduate team in the Study and Learning Centre at RMIT University, and I'd like to encourage you to join or establish your own research writing group. Dr. Judy Maxwell and I have put together a research writing group kit that explains in detail how to set up and maintain such a group. This video explains why research writing groups are effective support forums and how to set one up. It also offers anecdotal evidence for their usefulness. What is a research writing group? Well, it's a semi-formal forum of graduate researchers who come together on a regular basis to discuss their research, give and receive feedback on writing drafts, and generally support and motivate each other through the 3 and more years of candidature. The writing shared can be anything related to your research, depending on the decision of the group. If one of the aims of the group is to be supportive and spur motivation, however, then it's likely that the group will welcome any research-related task you need feedback on. It's important to establish from the outset what a research writing group does not do. It's not an all-round fix-it group. It doesn't offer therapy, except indirectly. And the group will not edit or proofread your work, although they may decide to focus on paragraph structure sometimes in order to improve the craft of writing. The group will not fix your grammar unless there is a focus on, for example, the action words or verbs used in research article abstracts. And the members will not solve your research problems, although it is likely that through voicing and discussing problems, solutions can be found. There are good reasons for joining or setting up a research writing group. First, you become part of a supportive community that's focused on the construction of a compelling thesis or dissertation through interactive engagement. Second, it develops writing skills, skills that will be of value for the rest of your working lives. These skills include the ability to critique your own and others' research and ideas, to reflect on who you are as a scholar and writer, and to write to deadlines and improve time management skills. Finally, the community serves to widen your network of scholars and your knowledge of current topics of research interest. By interrogating or analysing the work of others, we improve our own skills. What 3 focal points does a writing group interrogate and analyse? The content, or what the text is saying, the form, or how the writer is expressing the content, and the scholarly identity of the writer revealed through the text. In more detail, writing groups can give advice on structural elements of text at heading, subheading and paragraph levels. They can identify issues relating to your voice, whether you control the text or your cited authors are controlling the text, and your academic style. And they can ask questions to clarify issues about, for example, diagrammatic representations in your work. They can also suggest strategies for managing text or data and workload. Here are some basic considerations when setting up a writing group of your own. First, establish participant responsibilities. Members need to agree to 5 basic principles relating to commitment, contribution and support. Can you tick these 5 boxes to show that you might be interested in joining a writing group? Next, you'll need to decide on the schedule for the group and its makeup. For example, how often will the group meet? Will it be a regular thing or scheduled as needed? We strongly recommend a regular meeting because if you schedule as needed, people tend to drop away. Where can you hold the sessions? Can you make a regular room booking? We strongly recommend that you do try to make a regular room booking so that you can create a sense of familiarity of place when you all come together. You may need a room that has a projector, a screen projector, so that you can project writing up. What time is best for everyone? Make sure you make a time that is suitable. And finally, is the membership fixed at a number or is entry flexible? And what level of commitment will you decide upon? How will you go about sharing your writing? It's a good idea to distribute text in advance so people can read and think about them before they come to the session. How much time will you give for reading? Too much time and we forget to do the task, and too little and we mightn't have time to read. So how much time will we need to read? That means how long will the text be? We need to think about that as well. Our experience with participating in writing groups suggests that it's good for 2 participants to submit 2 or 3 pages of writing to each session. That's if the focus is on writing content and form. But more text can be submitted if the writer wants the group to focus on the hierarchy of organisation as shown in subheadings or paragraph topic sentences. Then we need to decide who's going to make the copies for the session. Will participants bring their own printouts? Will you use a shared doc on Google Drive? And if someone can't submit writing as they promised, what will you do instead? As stated earlier, there are all sorts of texts that we write during our research candidature. Which ones will the group accept? And apart from theses or dissertations texts, there are also group writing activities that can be done together in a session or before a session and then shared. See the list of PDF docs near this video link. It's important for a group to have a facilitator, someone who's one of the group but can also act as an organiser or mediator. How will you select the facilitator? And will you rotate this responsibility over time? And what will the facilitator do? The group needs to decide. In this image, the facilitator is a little bit too teacher-centred. We don't expect the facilitator to stand up there and boss everybody around. It was the best drawing I could find. Consider seeking collegial support from your program level research coordinator and from your supervisors. They may be able to help you find a regular meeting venue. They can promote the group if you need more members. And they may be able to source guest speakers to talk on topics you identify as useful. And of course, their knowledge of your group allows them to spread the good word at school and portfolio meetings. Some supervisors may in fact want to join your research writing group as an active member, not as a facilitator. The Study and Learning Centre is the source of nuts and bolts support for research writing groups. The postgrad team can run an orientation session for you and your fellow research students, offer customised resources on academic writing and style to support the group, or it can point participants to online resources. It can run mini workshops on writing issues and give support to the group facilitator. The writing group kit is available as a PDF file next to this video. Finally, let's think about the experience itself and about giving and receiving feedback. It's only natural that in the early weeks, participants will experience fear when they offer up their writing in order to get feedback. We're afraid that our readers will say negative things about us, about our ideas, and about our writing, and even more afraid that they'll just think we're stupid and we don't deserve to be a graduate researcher. Quite a few of us hold this secret fear that we we don't belong in a master's or doctoral research program. But it's important to remember that feedback is a great way to develop our skills and our thinking. Without it, we may not be able to progress. Think of feedback as positive support. Congratulate yourself and others on all the good things that happen in the research process. So there's a tendency initially to bring along text that's already been polished by our supervisors or others, but this is actually a waste of time. Breathe deeply and submit the text that's upsetting you. Maybe it's the ideas that are too complex and they're not coming together. Maybe your writing feels clumsy and you just can't express what you really want to say. Or maybe the structure feels wrong. The group is there to give advice. Here are some tips about receiving feedback from others. Separate yourself from your writing if you can. I know it's easier than it sounds, but there is no need to say sorry because your writing is not perfect. The group has come together after all for this very reason. And when you introduce your text to the group, explain what it's about and what you hope it does, and ask the group to give feedback on specific issues that you've identified. For example, can you give me feedback on paragraph 2? Do you understand its connection with paragraph 1? And if not, can you identify what the problem is? Because I can't. When group members give you feedback, listen carefully. If you're nervous, ask if you can record what they're saying. Try to take notes. Don't interrupt them and get defensive. Let them talk. You may get opposing opinions and advice. Note everything and make decisions later. If someone asks you to explain what you mean or why you've done something, answer carefully. Keep your mind open to change, but remember, you don't always have to follow the suggestions of others. Make sure you thank people for their feedback at the end because they've spent time thinking about your writing and your ideas. And so express your gratitude to them, even if you feel a little bit bruised after their comments. Now let's think about giving feedback. When we give feedback, it's good to be thoughtful and interested. We usually begin by saying something positive to calm the listener and steady them. You might say, "Your research project is so interesting and it's amazingly complex." Or, "This section is really clear." Or, "This is a great example." Or, "I like what you've done with the organisation here." And when you make suggestions, try to soften them a little. In English, we do this by using indirect speech. We use words like starter words like perhaps, or it might be useful to, or have you thought about? You might like to consider, what if you? And then invite others to comment. So, what do you think, X? We'd like to hear from someone else. So that you're not the only one giving the feedback. It's really good for a number to do it together. As stated earlier, we can give advice at 3 levels of text: macro level of title and chapter headings and subheadings, the contents page, or the middle paragraph, so the middle section, which is the paragraph function, and the micro elements of academic style, referencing, layout, and voice. And we recommend that the writing group ranges across these 3 levels and doesn't get stuck on one. The micro level, in a way, is the last level. The macro and the middle are really, really important levels as well because they're structural and they tell a story. Here are a few comments from grad students, postgrad students who've participated in research writing groups. They talk about confidence building, collegiality, and interpretive and writing skills development. Pause the video here if you'd like to read these in detail. They also talk about sharing and critical feedback, cross-fertilisation of ideas and methodologies, and motivational support. Again, pause the video if you'd like to read these. They also comment on the practical rewards as a result of group feedback on poster design, for example, and about valuable learning. Pause to read the detail. Do consider establishing or joining an existing research writing group. The Study and Learning Centre postgrad team looks forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching this video. Now check out the Research Writing Group kit and the other writing resources available as PDFs next to this video. Cheers!